Hi, welcome to Reading Comprehension session on tone of a passage. Just as when you and I speak at home or with your teacher, with your parents or with a friend, your tone represents the attitude that you carry, how you get excited after watching a good movie or disappointed after a bad book. Just like the tone of speaking, there is a tone of writing, and the tone of writing is symbolic of the attitude of the author. Okay? Before we jump into it, let me just show you something that I kind of captured for you. When a question is asked about the tone of a passage or a style of a passage, it is slightly different from asking you what is the essence of a passage, who do you think the author could be, etc. Okay, so here are a couple of tricks and couple of nice what should I call it, jeera golis that I have brought for you. Okay, when you're looking at something like a question that pertains to who is likely to be the author of this passage, what do you think is the central idea of this passage? What is the essence of this passage? It is very important, like we keep saying in reading comprehension, that are you able to walk in the author's pair of shoes? Are you able to think like that person? When you do that on questions of where you need to predict who's the author, what is the essence, you'll be able to do it very, very effortlessly. At the same time, there are some other questions where if you get too involved, you may not be able to answer the question correctly, and those are pertaining to the tone of the passage or the style of the passage. Okay, it is almost like if you are a big fan of, let's say, Nadal or Virat Kohli or Saina Nehwal, you're too big a fan and you're too involved in that match. And if the person loses, and if you come out and if I ask you 3 good things the other person has done, or can you analyze the match objectively, you are not likely to do, because you're going to be too much affected by the disappointment of losing the match or winning the match. So there are some passages where you need to be detached. You are like an expert commentator. The expert commentator should not give away which country does he belong to. Okay? So that's where I've put here the symbol of a chashma, the spectacles. That's one very important, and this is very important to do well in identifying the tone of the passage or the style of writing. Okay, let's now come to the tone itself. There are 3 kinds of tones broadly that you can see. One is whether the author has a positive attitude towards the subject or the matter, and that results in a positive tone. It could be, which means when you see the passage, you will see that there is a sense of optimism or a praise, appreciation. Maybe the author is in awe of the subject. Okay, for instance, an autobiography is not cynical. Autobiography is appreciative, etc. And if the author has a negative attitude, the tone will be absolutely consistent with that. And this also could be in 2 further types of negativity. One is in your face, very direct, very hard, very cynical, rejecting the idea, dismissive. That all is in your face negative attitude. Okay, or it could be subtle. It is negative, but it is cloaked with sarcasm, backhanded compliment, or even tongue-in-cheek. There's a little bit of a mischief, and that is kind of tending towards being negative in tone. Third, the attitude of the author could be neutral to the subject. A commentator, like I said, or an editor of a newspaper. While we don't find it very often, editor of a, let's say, a television magazine, television program. Okay. Now, this neutrality again can further be divided or categorized as neutral and active or neutral and passive. Neutral and active, so this is the editor's job, is critically analyzing the budget of the finance minister, let us say. Or you are writing an editorial for your school magazine. There is a play that happened in your school annual day and you are now analyzing it, writing the editorial. You will look at the positives, but you would also look at the downsides and write it in such a way that it doesn't look extremely negative still. The other is passive neutrality, which is more like a narrative or a description of a situation, how the situation was. It is passive. It is not active. When you describe a nature scenery, it is a narrative, but perhaps is more active, more appreciative. Okay, whereas something else could be neutral and passive and not be in appreciation. So there are various ways in which you will find the attitude of the author or the writer coming through. Keep these in mind. When we get into this exercise, we will try and see what kinds of questions are asked and what kinds of options are given to you as far as tone of a passage is concerned. Are we ready to go? Let's look at the question types. Take a look at this. You will be given a passage and the question is, the tone of the passage is. It could be the tone of the author in a particular paragraph or a line. That's different from the overall tone. The third is, the passage can be categorized as. Okay. Another one could be, the passage could have been from. That is possible from style. That also is possible from tone. Let's look at it. Okay. Now, the approach to solving a question or identifying the tone, it is very important to understand the writing style of an author, or the writing style and the tone that is needed in a particular kind of a publishing book, publishing a newspaper, whatever that we're talking about. Look at the exercise that I have in mind for you. When you look at a tone question, the option could be something like this. And some of these words might be difficult for you. Deriding, scornful, rhetoric, mendacious, ebullient, exuberant, sanguine. Some of them are easy. Optimistic, admiring, reverential perhaps, etc., etc. Okay. One of the exercises that I have for you in this is, please list all of these, especially those that do not know. Look up the dictionary meaning, and that will help you, because if the question says options A, B, C, D, and you don't know the meaning of C and D, you can't answer the question. It is as simple as that. Vocabulary is very important to understand the tone of a passage. Okay, let's move forward and do 4 hand-picked beautiful questions for you. Question number 1. Press the pause button, read it, attempt the question, and we'll discuss it. While I am not a supporter of nationalities as they are based on contracts made by people who have not existed for hundreds or thousands of years, I respect cultural diversity. And there are simple ways to cope with these differences, universally applicable to the diversity of personalities and to the diversity of cultures. The first step is to overcome the hubris of feeling superior. Somebody feels extremely superior, is supposed to suffer from hubris when compared to another individual. Also, the creation of a common ground is important, since the fault in cultural diversity education is to focus more on the differences rather than in the similarities. The tone of the passage is it descriptive of a situation or something? Doesn't look like that. Critical? No. Optimistic? No. Analytical? Yes. I'll pick analytical and move. Okay? Let's move to the next one. Do not imagine, comrades, that leadership is a pleasure. Read it in the right tone with the right pauses. It's a giveaway if you get it right and if you know the meaning of a couple of these words, and we will do it in a moment. Do not imagine, comrades, that leadership is a pleasure. On the contrary, it is a deep and heavy responsibility. Look at the tone. It is coming from somebody who seems to know the subject. No one believes more firmly than Comrade Napoleon that all animals are equal. There is a little bit of a condescends, a little bit of a talk down which is here in the tone. He would be only too happy to let you make your decisions for yourselves. But sometimes you might make the wrong decisions, comrades, and then where should we be? There is a position of authority, position of greater knowledge that is coming through in the attitude of the author. Okay? And look at the options. Narrative, remember it spoke about in the form of a story. Do you see any sarcasm? This is no, this is no. Now these are two very interesting new words. Would you know them? If you know, you will pick up very easily. If you don't know, it's a 50-50. Didactic is something to do with teaching. Teaching something which is absolutely known to the teacher. Okay, this is not a discussion. It is known and the knowledge transfer happening. Cavilling is about raising small objections. This is about finding little faults, creating objections, which is not the case in this. Here is a person in a position of knowledge and power and authority sharing something that he thinks he knows. Okay, didactic is the answer. Let's move. Press the pause button, read it, attempt. It talks about tone of the passage and we will pick it out. Okay. Before long, the animals began to arrive and make themselves comfortable after their different fashions. First came the three dogs, B, J and P. Remember we spoke about quickly using the acronyms and not waste time? First came the three dogs, B, J and P, and then the pigs who settled down in the straw immediately in front of the platform. The hens perched themselves on the windowsills. The pigeons fluttered up to the rafters. The sheep and cows lay down behind the pigs and began to chew the cud. The two cart horses, B and C, came in together, walking very slowly and settling down their vast hairy hoofs with great care, lest there should be some small animal concealed in the straw. Does it take too much time for you to mark the narrative? I don't even have to look, but we will look and then reject all the three in any case. One more question. Please read, press the pause button, attempt the question, and then we move. Following a stressful morning of scavenging through my glamorous closet for the one outfit that best flattered my thick midsection, of swapping hairstyle for hairstyle, finding the most flattering look for my chubby face, and of posing at the mirror, deciding upon my thinnest angle, I was forced to have this ugly conversation with someone to whom I would gladly offer my body if I were happy with it. What is the frame of mind of the author in the passage? Tell me, is it introspective Remember, introspection has something positive about it. Introspecting, reflecting, it's not used in a negative sense. And there is something about little bit of negative tone in this, about oneself. Obsessive is negative, and negative and in relation to something to an extreme. Okay, obsessive about something is how we use it. This doesn't look like that, so I will skip this as well. Confused? No, the person might be negative but clear. Lamenting. Lamenting means to bewail, to say something about oneself, to pour out one's little bit of a story. Okay, pareshan is the word for this. Pareshan hoke bolna. Okay, so she's the person, he or she is lamenting about her own situation. Okay, and it's talking about the thick midsection and the chubby face and posing and deciding upon the thinnest angle. The person seems to be lamenting upon, oh my god, I don't have the right shape that I would have liked. Okay, and doing it to the mirror. Hope it's clear. I hope you've enjoyed this particular session. Kindly spend a few minutes looking up the dictionary and writing down the meanings of all the words that we have discussed, including the tone related options that you will find very, very often. If you don't know the options, there's no way you can answer the question, and that's giving away the easiest part of reading comprehension just because your vocabulary is weak. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a good time revising and preparing for your exam. Bye.